Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this late Tuesday night. An eye patch became Mr. Dan Crenshaw is quickly finding out that Democrats don't care. If you align with them on their globalist ventures, they will still take you out. If you're a Republican, it doesn't matter to them. They will work to ensure that they can get rid of you. Recently, we found out, of course, the FTX scandal. The billions of dollars that was stolen by the FTX guy. As he continued to hide out in the Bahamas, he donated to willing individuals who wanted to support Ukraine and COVID measures, and that was Republican Democrats. What we have seen, though, was no Democrats have been gone after for taking the money. What we're seeing now is any Republican who had taken the money is now being looked into. People like Dan Crenshaw. As much as I hate Dan Crenshaw, he's probably learned a very valuable lesson. However, I don't think he's going to learn it the way we think he's going to learn it. Maybe he'll just continue to lean more into the Democrats and make sure that they will ensure that they won't get looked at as hard. So let's go and dive into it. It says Rhino Dan Crenshaw smacked with a $42,000 fine by the FEC for campaign finance violations, while Democrats who took the FTX money walk free. That's right. Leading establishment Dan Crenshaw found himself in hot water on Friday. The FEC discovered the congressman illegally fundraised during the 2020 election cycle and hit him with a major fine. The agency said that Crenshaw campaign and its treasurer Paul Kilgore broke federal law by knowingly accepting excessive and prohibited corporate contributions totaling $223,000 during the 2020 election. Meanwhile, the Democrats who received millions from FTX are not being targeted by their government. From the document, that committee received excessive and apparent prohibited contributions aggregating $223,000 for the 2020 primary and its general elections from 125 individuals, 1 non-qualified political action committee, 1 qualified multi-candidate committee, 4 corporations and 3 LLCs as the authorized committee, and the committee was limited to accepting $2,800 per election from individuals, $5,000 from multi-candidate committee, and was prohibited from accepting any corporation contribution to committee. However, raised $223,000 in excessive and apparent prohibit that contributions across for disclosed reports. Team Crenshaw claims they paid back all the money inside of human error as the excuse for the violations. They also promised to implement internal controls to prevent debris occurrence. This is not the first time Crenshaw has been in trouble. When COVID-19 pandemic struck, Crenshaw decided to purchase stock and failed to disclose its activities as required by the Stock Act. He illegally profited from the worst global pandemic in over a century. Control cashed in while people died. And he's one of the leading individuals within the House Representatives who somehow can always pick the right stock. He's right up there with Nancy Pelosi. Makes you wonder why people of Texas continues to send this guy back to Congress. Can't stand to dude. But we'll continue to keep an eye on this situation and continue to see how it goes. But we know that he'll probably be a slap on the wrist. Yes, that $42,000 fine, which will probably be paid by his handlers, calls Klaus Schwab for the WEF and other globalists. We'll make sure they take care of that and go away for him because he continues to do the bidding of Ukraine and other things that they like. And some significant news, what this really means in the long term for the Biden administration, is probably there'll be a recession next year. When there is a recession, we will finally emerge from the recession into very slow growth, which is exactly what Barack Obama did. Joe Biden's plans, economically speaking, are no different from Barack Obama's. In fact, if you recall, when Joe Biden entered office, he put out his perspective for the next few years, economically speaking. And his suggestion was that the United States was going to grow at less than 2% GDP year on year for about the next 10 years, which is a really stagnating rate of growth for the world's most powerful economy. By the way, members of the media who weren't pumping up the Biden economy. They're not feeling it themselves. That is for sure, because CNN is now laying off hundreds of people. According to media, as CNN chief Chris Lipton announced the network will start making layoffs as part of his budget cut strategy, they're expected to target hundreds of CNN employees. Oliver Darcy, CNN's senior media reporter, released a letter that was sent out to the entire company on Wednesday. In it announced that the first round of layoffs will impact the network's paid contributors. The network's remaining staff would be informed of those changes tomorrow. So you're going to see a bunch of people who were on TV no longer be on TV, because CNN is really cutting. They're having a rough time. It turns out that they really needed Donald Trump to be president in order to succeed economically speaking. Lux has been vocal about his interest in reorienting CNN editorial focus on straight news reporting. He's also signaled the network's rating struggles and debt from the Discovery-Warner Media merger could necessitate dramatic cuts for the network's projects, including hundreds of job losses. Mediate says that the layoffs mostly focus on paid contributors. But the reality is that CNN is going to have to fire a bunch of its actual hosts, shifting Don Lemon from evenings into mornings, where he can continue to be a left-wing propagandist, while proclaiming to Stephen Colbert that he is in fact an objective news reporter. That ain't gonna cut it over at CNN. You can also see, by the way, why the media are they are desperate for Donald Trump to come back. They want Donald Trump. It's something to remember as we go forward into the Republican primaries and toward 2024 is that the media do not get ratings out of other Republicans. The media don't get ratings out of Joe Biden. The media only get ratings out of Donald Trump. They need the opposition. They need the battle. It is the thing they love more than anything else. Their goal is going to be to give Donald Trump as much attention as humanly possible, specifically because number one, it's what I mean, the truth is a win-win for them. If Donald Trump wins, the media makes bank. The New York Times exploded in subscribership because Donald Trump was president. So if he loses, then the media gets to brag. They stopped Donald Trump, so it's a win-win for them in every possible way. CNN without Donald Trump is a ratings disaster area. This is one area where Trump was totally 100% right. And you're seeing that now as CNN is forced to lay off an enormous number of people in their contributorships behind the camera. And if Lucht actually wanted to do something useful, he actually would reorient CNN. I just don't have any faith that Wix is actually going to do that. Well, meanwhile, controversy continues to swirl around Elon Musk. The media are out to nail Musk again, because they saw Twitter as their preserve. It was their domain. Twitter was the place that they were going to be able to control the narrative. And now that Musk has taken over Twitter with $44 billion of his own money and investor money, they're very angry that he did that. And so they've played this silly game. Now, when they find people who have been laid off by Twitter, the disgruntled employees, and then they suggest that those disgruntled employees have an amazing insight into Twitter. So for example, they've started citing Yo Roth, who was the former head of trust and safety over Twitter, suggesting that the place is not safe anymore. Well, weird. I mean, it's almost as though you got fired. Now you're bitter about it, you're upset about it. He did, by the way, admit in an interview with journalist Kara Swisher that it was a mistake for Twitter to censor the Hunter Biden story. He said, "We didn't know what to believe, we didn't know what was true. There was smoke, and ultimately for me, it didn't reach a place where I was comfortable removing this content from Twitter, but it set off alarm bells for every single one of my finely tuned APT-28 hack and leak campaign alarm bells." Asked if it was a mistake for Twitter to have blocked the story, Ross said yes. But he also said that the place is not safe. And it's a really bad place now that he is no longer there. And this is contributing to, again, more Democratic heartburn over Twitter. Musk is out there saying openly that there needs to be more transparency as to what went on Twitter while he was not in charge. There is a person who tweeted at him the other day, suggesting that there needed to be more transparency. Twitter has shown itself to be not safe for the past 10 years and has lost users' trust. The passing of trust and safety is a disgrace, so doesn't have any right to judge what's being announced at this Twitter user. They had a chance, but they sold their souls to a corporation. And Musk responded directly to this person. There's one thing that's amazing that Musk, he's the richest man in the world. And he's just responding to randos on Twitter. Exactly. The obvious reality is longtime users knows that Twitter has failed in trust and safety for a very long time and has interfered in elections. Twitter 2.0 will be far more effective, transparent, even-handed. And this, of course, is what is driving people up a wall. On the left is where you have Elizabeth Warren, who's ripping on Elon Musk. I have to say there's great irony to Elizabeth Warren suggesting that there cannot be too much power at the top of a privately held company, when she is literally the creator of the Consumer Finance Protection Board, which was under her auspices completely independent of any other branch of government, and it has its own funding mechanism, and basically was such an autocracy, the Supreme Court struck down its entire structure. Elizabeth Warren has no problem with centralization of power, she just wants to be the person with the bad haircut at the top of it. Everyone listen to this. Republicans say that Democrats are picking on Elon Musk. Elon Musk is doing just fine. But do you think that users have a right to freedom of speech, even if what they're saying is wrong or offensive? I think that one human being should not decide how millions of people communicate with each other when you human beings should not be able to go into a dark room by himself and decide, oh, that person gets hurt from that person doesn't. That's not how it should work. Okay, folks, I mean, that's an amazing statement from a person who's in favor of centralization of power, Elizabeth Warren. Joe Biden literally goes into a dark room as she goes into his coffin at night. And when they close that coffin, he signs a bunch of executive orders, and this emergence of the policy of the United States. Again, Elizabeth Warren is the creator of the Consumer Finance Protection Board, which is explicitly designed to basically control the American economy without any sort of check or balance on it. But she's very angry that Elon Musk, who spent his own money and invest your money in order to buy a company, is being actually quite transparent about how he's making these decisions. And he's just saying, I don't want this person on, I don't want this person on, I do want this person on, and he's willing to take the flak for that. And that's not transparent enough. For Elizabeth Warren, what she wants is a completely opaque algorithm that supposedly decides on an objective basis who's getting, but everybody knows if they've been watching Twitter for the past 10 years, that that's not how it works over Twitter. That it's not objective in any way, shape, or form. You see people who completely violate the rules and get away with it. You see people who don't violate the rules and get banned. The problem for her is not that she doesn't like one person at the top deciding, that she doesn't like the person at the top who is doing the deciding already. Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts below. And hit subscribe right now.